Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really trying to cut through the noise. We want to explore what truly defines, a blessed life, a lasting legacy.
Or even just a meaningful marriage, right?
Exactly. We're diving into a fascinating set of reflections, looking at how faith can, profoundly shape our most fundamental relationships and our lasting impact.
And what's really interesting here, I think, is how these sources connect very personal, deeply felt experiences with these overarching spiritual principles. It gives us a kind of roadmap.
A roadmap, yeah. For understanding not just what a blessed life might look like,
but also why it matters, and how it can be built on the spiritual foundation that potentially stretches across generations.
That's a perfect setup.
Yeah.
So our source material for this deep dive, it comes from a really inspiring sermon. It offers insights into these areas from, a specific spiritual perspective.
Right, and it blends personal stories, anecdotes with scripture.
Which makes it quite powerful. So for you, our listener, this is an opportunity, we hope, to quickly gain some thorough knowledge, maybe find those aha moments about navigating life's big relationships and leaving a meaningful mark. Okay, so the source kicks off with this really compelling story. It just perfectly captures this idea of a faithful legacy.
Yeah, the grandmother.
Exactly. Imagine one person's faith having such a profound ripple effect. Generations. We hear about this grandmother joined a new family at just 16.
And she was, as the source says, an uneducated rural girl. But after finding her faith,
she attended the Elon Church for an incredible 80 years. 80.
It's quite a remarkable testament, really, to individual conviction. It shows how one person's steadfastness, just holding on, can anchor an entire family line.
And the sermon emphasizes that all her descendants, even the ones who are 70 or 80 years old now,
they've stayed connected to that church. It's described as this unbroken chain of faith, stemming directly from her decision, her dedication.
And the source is very clear.
Yeah.
No one from that specific line has ever left the church.
Which is quite something.
That kind of generational impact is, it's rare and really powerful. It just drives home the point, doesn't it? One person's unwavering faith can be the spiritual anchor for a whole family.
Guiding it for generations right up to today.
Yeah, not about grand gestures, but just consistent, steadfast devotion. That becomes the legacy.
In this story, it really sets the stage for looking deeper at personal responsibility, within that spiritual framework. It shows the long-term impact.
How faith can be almost like a tangible inheritance.
Exactly, shaping a whole lineage's values and direction.
So how do these big spiritual ideas translate into something really practical, like marriage?
Well, the source gets right into that, drawing from the speaker's own experience, 37 years of marriage, plus his pastoral work.
Right, so he lays out these 3, let's call them guideposts. And they're not just abstract ideas, are they? They're rooted in, lived experience.
Precisely. They're presented as foundational, coming from someone who's seen countless unions and navigated his own long marriage. So they feel very practical, especially for someone looking to build a relationship within this specific spiritual context.
Okay, so pillar number 1, mutual loyalty and lifelong commitment.
This is fundamental in the source.
And it's not just about saying you're loyal. The source talks about how deeply internalizing this divine promise changes everything. It turns a legal contract into something sacred, a living covenant.
Yeah, faithful, loving commitment, truly meant before God and witnesses.
And he encourages couples, interestingly, to write their own vows, to go beyond just the standard I do.
Which makes sense, right? Writing personal vows helps embed those promises deep in the couple's hearts. It's about taking real ownership of that sacred promise they're making.
Okay, pillar 2, sustaining passion and affection. The advice here is basically, keep it alive. Consciously maintain a loving heart, mutual admiration through your whole life together.
And he gives that lovely, tangible example.
Oh yeah, him and his wife. After 37 years, still holding hands when they're out shopping or walking. He even uses the Taiwanese term, kachu.
Holding hands, yeah. That ongoing, visible affection, no matter how old you are, it's portrayed as critical.
It's like a continuous choice to cherish each other.
Exactly. Fostering empathy, understanding. The source stresses it's not just some fleeting emotion, but a sustained, deliberate act that keeps the bond strong.
Okay, and then we get to the 3rd pillar. This one's about embracing responsibility. And it's presented through a specific dynamic the source calls big man, small woman.
Right. And it's important to understand this is presented as a specific cultural and theological interpretation of roles within this framework.
How does the source describe it?
Well, it describes the husband as the big man. He takes full responsibility for the family's care, providing, protecting. That's his duty.
Okay.
Then, within this particular view, the wife is positioned as the small woman who respects and submits to him.
So how is that framed? Like, what's the goal?
The source clarifies that in its context, this division of labor, fulfilling these distinct duties, it's meant to create a functional and ultimately a blessed household.
So presented less as a power thing, more as clear duties, responsibilities, all for the family's well-being.
That seems to be the intention laid out in the source. And there's almost like a fourth element tied into this, the responsibility to care for the spouse's family, especially the elders, making sure there's active, positive interaction, not cutting the spouse off from their original family.
Ah, okay, so recognizing marriage connects you to a wider family unit.
Exactly, that holistic view of family responsibility, linking the marriage bond directly to the extended family, honoring those ties. That's a key element in this sermon.
Let's shift gears slightly. Many of us, we might have seen those plaques, the ones that say, "Christ is the head of my house."
Oh yeah, very common.
But our source asks a really pointed question. Is it just decoration, something you hang on the wall? Or is it a genuine, living declaration of faith? It really challenges us to look past the object itself.
And it connects it back to some powerful historical roots. The sermon links this phrase directly to Joshua.
Right. Joshua's addressed to the Israelites, Joshua 24.
Exactly. He's 110 years old, end of his life, talking to this new generation. Their parents, remember, had died in the wilderness. Lack of faith. He's calling them to something different.
He really urged them, didn't he, to genuinely revere and serve the Lord, to ditch the old gods, the ones from their ancestors from Egypt that their parents couldn't let go of. It was a stark choice.
And then he makes that incredible declaration, "As for me and my household, we will serve the Lord."
And that's where the modern phrase, "Christ is the head of my house," really finds its power, its connection.
Building on that, the source then unpacks what true submission looks like if you adopt this declaration.
What does that mean, practically?
It means genuinely surrendering control to Jesus. The sermon suggests that when conflicts pop up, marital, family stuff, instead of just digging in, arguing, asserting your own will.
You should,
Yeah. Pause before that plaque. Reflect and ask, who is really in charge here? If Jesus is genuinely at the helm, then the marriage isn't run by the husband's rules or the wife's rules.
But by divine guidance, as understood in this context.
Exactly.
That's a huge challenge to ego, isn't it? To self-interest in a relationship. Which brings us to another analogy. The source uses the seesaw.
Ah, yes, the seesaw. Such a vivid way to think about navigating differences.
Because a seesaw needs two people, right?
Yeah.
Two active participants. You can't play alone. And it needs balance.
And if you connect this to the bigger picture, like complex family dynamics, Paul's message in 1 Corinthians 7 comes to mind.
Where he talks about mixed faith marriages.
Right. One spouse is a believer, the other isn't. And Paul advises against immediate divorce. He actually suggests faith can be a bridge, not necessarily a wall.
Okay, so how does the seesaw analogy explain building that bridge?
Well, think about it. If one person on the seesaw is heavier, maybe stronger in faith or character, let's say, and the other is lighter, what happens?
They get stuck. No movement.
Exactly. So to get balance, to get things moving again, the heavier person has to adjust. They need to move forward on the board. Meaning consciously compromising, yielding sometimes, making concessions.
I see. So the application here is that the spouse who's considered stronger, maybe in faith or character,
they are encouraged to be the one to adjust, to compromise, not the weaker one. The wisdom offered is that this approach lets them effectively influence and guide the family.
So embodying faith through action, not just demanding the other person change.
Precisely. And the speaker shares some really powerful examples from his own family to illustrate this.
Yeah, his brother-in-law and his younger sister's husband, both first-generation Christians.
And these weren't just, average guys. They were accomplished professionals. One a manager at an electronics research institute, the other a doctor of Western and traditional Chinese medicine licenses.
So highly intelligent, capable people.
Right. And they didn't just passively accept faith. Through family interaction, personal searching, they apparently looked into lots of things, Buddhist scriptures, even Mormon scriptures.
Wow.
And ultimately, after all that personal inquiry, they embraced Christianity. They found it to be the true faith, according to the sermon. These stories really hammer home the point about patient love, good character, and that willingness to adjust, like moving on the seesaw.
It makes sense. If one side just refuses to play or jumps off the seesaw entirely, gives up,
then the game's over. The marriage can't function that way.
So the call to action here is for listeners to, well, pray for their non-believing spouses, show good character, really care for the family, be more understanding.
Because that, the source argues, is the most effective way to influence them towards faith.
Let's talk about inheritance. We usually think of that word and picture money, property, maybe academic achievements we pass on.
Yeah, the tangible stuff, physical assets.
But our source really pushes us to redefine true wealth, doesn't it? In a much deeper way.
Absolutely. True inheritance within the specific spiritual view is defined as something eternal, lasting, given by God, something that endures long after you're gone.
It's about what actually lasts, not what fades away.
Exactly, and this leads directly to Psalm 127.
Right. The source quotes verse 1. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain.
Often used for new beginnings, right?
Yeah, new ventures, marriages. But the crucial part for this discussion is verse 3.
Children are a heritage from the Lord, offspring a reward from him.
And that's fascinating, isn't it? Children are explicitly presented as the true inheritance, the property entrusted by God.
So it shifts the whole focus away from material stuff.
Towards human lives, emphasizing stewardship, spiritual investment, rather than just accumulating things.
And the speaker gives that very personal example. Again, his own parents lived past 90. Not highly educated, didn't leave behind lots of money. His father couldn't even drive, he mentions.
But their most significant legacy, their unwavering faith, and constantly encouraging their descendants, generation after generation, to follow God's commandments. Faithfulness over worldly success. That was their mantra.
Believing that promise, if you love me and keep my commandments, I will show mercy to 1,000 generations.
And their dedication was pretty intense. They even entrusted their son, the speaker himself, to serve God, prioritizing his faithfulness over him getting some high-flying job.
Which the source contrasts starkly with what it sees as a common trap today.
The material focus trap.
Yeah. Parents pouring everything into academics, material things for their kids, expensive phones, fancy clothes, degrees, but maybe neglecting to pass on faith.
And the result, the source argues, the kids just end up chasing the same worldly goals as everyone else. They miss out on that eternal inheritance.
The wisdom offered here is that faith-based parenting, raising kids in God's will, is the path to a life free from, well, excessive worry.
Whereas teaching kids just to strive for themselves, climb over others,
can lead to self-centeredness, where kids later in life might prioritize their own new families over caring for their aging parents.
And the source makes a pretty direct link there, doesn't it? Yeah. About accountability.
It does. It suggests that if children don't return that care, those values, it's often presented as a consequence, a result of parents maybe failing to pass on the best inheritance, which in this view is faith. It places significant responsibility on parents for the spiritual trajectory of their kids.
Okay, moving towards the end of the journey. There's this really touching image the speaker shared.
Oh, the photograph.
Yeah, of his elderly parents, 80s, 90s, walking together in Kinman, still mobile, independent, right up until they passed. It's just a beautiful picture of a shared life.
And it leads to this reflection on true partnership, doesn't it? What really sustains a relationship over a lifetime.
What does the source say?
It argues that the best support you can give your partner isn't fixing all their problems or buying them loads of stuff, new phones, cars, fancy meals.
Oh, wait.
Companionship. Just being there.
Wow. That's a powerful shift. It's about sharing the whole journey, right? The good times, the simple times. Cherishing each other along the way.
Not just doing for them, but truly being with them every single day.
That's profound.
And the sermon takes this idea of human companionship and elevates it even further, connecting it to the divine through Revelation 21.
Ah, the vision of the new heaven and new earth.
Right, where for believers, suffering ends. And in that vision, the New Jerusalem is described like a bride, beautifully adorned for her husband.
Symbolizing Christ and the church, his followers?
Exactly, and making that connection elevates human marriage. It presents it as this beautiful earthly reflection of that ultimate spiritual relationship between humanity and God.
So bringing it all together, what does this mean for understanding marriage according to our source? It seems to present a very clear, very distinct vision.
It does. It states quite directly that a truly blessed marriage within this specific theological framework is understood as a devout and holy union of one man and one woman. And from this specific theological viewpoint, the source is explicit that concepts like same-sex marriage or other diverse family structures are seen as not aligning with what it presents as true teaching, which it roots in a particular understanding of divine creation.
Right. The sermon emphasizes a belief in a specific divine order for creation, and that's central to its message.
Yes. And within that framework, the union of one man and one woman is meant to preserve what the source describes as the dignified image and glory of God, with men and women playing distinct but mutually supportive roles.
But it also stresses that this blessed marriage isn't meant to be, like, selfish or make people feel superior.
No, not at all. It's framed as a testament of love and faith, something that should serve as a light, a witness to other people.
In all areas of life.
Yeah. Family, workplace, neighborhood, church. It's about radiating those values outward, impacting the world around you positively.
So as you, our listener, step away from this deep dive today, maybe consider this. How are you living out your own understanding of legacy, of companionship?
And what kind of inheritance are you really focused on cultivating for the future? Is it just the material stuff, or is it something more lasting, more spiritual?
Remember the speaker sharing his own experience, receiving that Christ is the head of my house plaque when he got married. For him, it was about continuing his parents' deep faith. So the question for you is that phrase just, a nice decoration in your home? Or is it a living, guiding principle that actually shapes your choices, your relationships, your generational impact? What does it truly mean for your household?
Yep.